Hello, third grade, and welcome to our first language arts lesson video. In this video, I'm going to go over a lot of things with you so that you are more familiar with how we do our language arts work and where to find your resources. So your language arts notes, which I'm going to go through with you here, are labeled third grade ELA, Unit 1, Week 1, and you're going to find those in the shared folder. Now remember, the shared folder I had already sent to mom and dad, and it's going to be a link in all of the emails that I send. When you open up the shared folder, it'll take you here. Now we're going into week 2. So you would open the week 2 folder and you can find the notes right here. Now, what we also have in the shared folder is your ELA workbook. So if you misplace anything, you can go in here and you can find it. So if you open up the third grade folder, you can see the practice book, which is what you're going to be doing most of your homework out of. Looks like this. Now, when you're going through your practice book, when I assign you pages, it's going to be the page that's listed at the bottom here. Don't worry about what page you're actually on when you're scrolling through the document. So you're not looking at the page over here. You're looking at the number that's actually on the paper. So your packet is going to be out of your practice book. And if you want to make sure you're in the right place, it's going to say practice, grade 3, unit 1, week 1 at the bottom. And your first page is always going to be your vocabulary page. Now, you're not going to be assigned all of the pages in this packet, only some of them, and those ones you need to complete. Make sure when you're filling in your answers that you're using complete sentences and that you're checking to make sure that you start with a capital letter and that you end with a punctuation mark. Now, one of the pages that I want to go over with you is the last page of your homework that you'll be assigned, which is the draft model page, and this is going to be your writing page. Now, the way this page works is the worksheet will give you a very, very short story. Right here in the box, it says draft model. Underneath, they're going to ask you questions to help make the story more interesting. Then when you finish up, you're going to rewrite the story. So this part up here with the extra details and information that you came up with into one more interesting story. So let's go ahead and read through this. It says, read the draft model, use the questions that follow the draft to help you think about how you can focus on a central event. Polly Pig always played in the mud. It was warm out. The mud felt good to her. She saw another animal in the mud. So when we read this story, it's very disconnected, right? There's not one idea that we're talking about. It sounds like a bunch of different ideas right after each other. So it's hard to understand what's going on in the story. We're going to answer these questions either right here on the line, or if you're going to write them on a separate piece of paper first, that's fine. And we're going to help come up with a way to focus the story on one event or one thing that's happening and make it more interesting. So the first question says, when exactly was Polly Pig playing in the mud? So over here, our first sentence says she always played in the mud. It was warm out. So we can say Polly Pig was playing in the mud on a hot summer day. The second question says, what details would tell how warm it was then? So if you want to describe the weather being warm, you can talk about how the sun was out and there were no clouds in the sky. You can talk about how Polly Pig was feeling really warm and sweaty. For question number 3, what details would tell how the mud felt? So she said the mud felt good to her. So let's think, on a hot day, what would make you feel really good? Maybe the mud felt nice and cool. Maybe it felt soft and smooth on her skin. So we can say that the mud felt cool and soft on Polly Pig's skin. And the fourth question says, what kind of animal did Polly Pig see? So she saw another animal in the mud. Maybe she saw another pig, or maybe she saw a dog rolling around in the mud also to cool off. So when we go to rewrite our story, it says now revise the draft. When we revise, we're making changes and we're making it better. Revise the draft by focusing on a central event and adding details that will help readers learn more about what happened to Polly Pig. So we're going to rewrite it down here using our best handwriting, or if we're typing it, we're going to make sure we're using proper punctuation. So ending our sentences with periods, starting everything with a capital letter. And we can say Polly Pig was playing in the mud on a hot summer day. It was warm out. The sun was shining and there was not a cloud in the sky. The mud felt good to her. It was cool and soft on her skin. Then Polly Pig noticed a dog rolling around in the mud so that he could cool off too. So you can see how we took a very, very simple story that wasn't really connected and we made it more interesting. So those are ideas of how you can fill in your draft model. So you're going to come up with your own answers and write them in. And then when you rewrite your story, you're putting it all together so that it's a much more focused and detailed and interesting story for someone to listen to. Now, as we go through, you're going to be able to log in online and see your books. So if you don't have your textbooks with you, you'll be able to log in, and mom and dad already have the information here. So when you go to the website for our language arts, you're going to press login after you enter in the information. And we're going to scroll down. So if we want language arts, we're going to go to the Wonders books, and those are towards the bottom. So you're going to find your book, which is the orange book, and you're going to press launch. Now, the easiest thing to do once you get here to find the books that you need is just click on the resources button. As soon as you're there, you're going to see your reading and writing workshop, which is going to be your small textbook, and you're going to see your literature anthology, which is your big textbook. And in case you misplace your practice book or something happens to those pages when you actually have your workbook with you, you can download it right here, or you could go back to our shared drive, and I showed you that your books are also in there. So I'm going to open up both of these. I'm going to open up the reading and writing workshop. And here you can click on the side and flip the pages until we get to the table of contents where it says Unit 1 at the top. So here we are as Unit 1, and we're going to go to our Week 1 story time. So we're going to click right there, and it's going to take us to the correct page. I'm also going to go back and open the literature anthology. So I'm going to open the big book. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to flip my pages, until I get to Unit 1, Week 1, and I'm going to click on the story right there. So this is Unit 1. The first one over here says Week 1, then Week 2, and so on. So we're going to open the Week 1 story. All right. So this way you can access all of the storybooks and you can listen to them here, which is really nice. So in case you're having a hard time reading it or you're not sure how to say a certain word, you can play the story by clicking on these little speakers. They're going to be all over there's going to be on each page, you're going to have speakers. And we're going to listen to our story. So first, let's listen to our story out of our big book or our literature anthology book.
Genre: Fantasy. Wolf by Becky Bloom. Illustrated by Pascal Billet.
Now remember, when you want to flip the page, you're going to go to this little arrow, and if you hover over it, it'll tell you next page. So you can click there, and then you can click on your speaker.
After walking for many days, a wolf wandered into a quiet little town. He was tired and hungry, his feet ached, and he had only a little money that he kept for emergencies. Then he remembered. There's a farm outside this village, he thought. I'll find some food there. As he peered over the farm fence, he saw a pig, a duck, and a cow reading in the sun.
Now, as we read our story, you're going to notice that some of our words are highlighted in yellow. Those are going to be your vocabulary words this week, and we're going to go over the meanings of those in just a moment.
The wolf had never seen animals read before. I'm so hungry that my eyes are playing tricks on me, he said to himself. But he really was very hungry and didn't stop to think about it for long. The wolf stood up tall, took a deep breath, and leaped at the animals with a howl. Ow! Chickens and rabbits ran for their lives, but the duck, the pig, and the cow didn't budge. "What is that awful noise?" complained the cow. "I can't concentrate on my book." "Just ignore it," said the duck. The wolf did not like to be ignored. "What's wrong with you?" growled the wolf. "Can't you see I'm a big and dangerous wolf?" "I'm sure you are," replied the pig, "but couldn't you be big and dangerous somewhere else? We're trying to read. This is a farm for educated animals. Now be a good wolf and go away," said the pig, giving him a push. The wolf had never been treated like this before. "Educated animals! Educated animals!" the wolf repeated to himself. "This is something new. Well then, I'll learn how to read too." And off he went to school. The children found it strange to have a wolf in their class, but since he didn't try to eat anyone, they soon got used to him. The wolf was serious and hard-working, and after much effort, he learned to read and write. Soon he became the best in the class. Feeling quite satisfied, the wolf went back to the farm and jumped over the fence. "I'll show them," he thought. He opened his book and began to read. "Run, wolf, run! See, wolf, run!" "You've got a long way to go," said the duck, without even bothering to look up. And the pig, the duck, and the cow went on reading their own books, not the least impressed. The wolf jumped back over the fence and ran straight to the public library. He studied long and hard, reading lots of dusty old books, and he practiced and practiced until he could read without stopping. "They'll be impressed with my reading now," he said to himself. The wolf walked up to the farm gate and knocked. He opened The Three Little Pigs and began to read. "Once upon a time there were 3 little pigs. One day their mother called them and told them—" "Stop that racket," interrupted the duck. "You have improved," remarked the pig, "but you still need to work on your style." The wolf tucked his tail between his legs and slunk away. But the wolf wasn't about to give up. He counted the little money he had left, went to the bookshop, and bought a splendid new storybook, his first very own book. He was going to read it day and night, every letter and every line. He would read so well that the farm animals would admire him. "Ding dong," rang the wolf at the farm gate. He lay down on the grass, made himself comfortable, took out his new book, and began to read. He read with confidence and passion, and the pig, the cow, and the duck all listened and said not one word. Each time he finished a story, the pig, the duck, and the cow asked if he would please read them another. So the wolf read on, story after story. One minute he was Little Red Riding Hood, the next a genie emerging from a lamp, and then a swashbuckling pirate. "This is so much fun," said the duck. "He's a master," said the pig. "Why don't you join us on our picnic today?" offered the cow. And so they all had a picnic, the pig, the duck, the cow, and the wolf. They lay in the tall grass and told stories all the afternoon long. "We should all become storytellers," said the cow suddenly. "We could travel around the world," added the duck. "We can start tomorrow morning," said the pig. The wolf stretched in the grass. He was happy to have such wonderful friends.
Okay, so this takes us to the end of our very first story. Now we're going to go ahead and take a look at our story in our small book. So these are stories we're going to be reading throughout the week to get ready for your selection or story test at the very end of the week. The selection test is the story test. So let's head over here. Now, when you open up your book, the first pages you're going to see have your vocabulary words on them, and they're used in example sentences and in an example question. So your words this week are the word ached, concentrate, discovery, educated, effort, improved, inspired, and satisfied. And we're going to go over the meanings of those in just a bit. After you flip past your vocabulary pages, you're going to get to your story.
Genre, fantasy. Bruno's new home. Bruno shivered. A frosty wind blew through the forest. Bright red and orange leaves danced around the trees. His paws felt like blocks of ice. It was almost winter. Bruno needed a warm, safe place to hibernate, and he needed it now. Bruno moved slowly through the woods. He grumbled and growled to himself. Finding a new place to sleep was harder than he thought. Bruno climbed up a small hill. He hiked around a pond and walked on a path. No place was right. Finally, he made an exciting discovery. Bruno spotted a cave in the side of a rocky hill. It was perfect except for one thing. He couldn't fit through the opening. It was blocked with a pile of dirt and tangled roots. Bruno sat down to think. I'll just dig out some of this dirt and make the entrance bigger, he thought. Then I can finally get to sleep. Bruno dug and dug with his huge paws, but the dirt was packed down hard. It took a lot of hard work and effort. He pulled and pulled at the tree roots. The roots were strong and too tough to rip out. Bruno stopped to rest. His paws ached. They were red and sore. Suddenly he heard a loud sound. Crack! Bruno turned quickly and saw a small squirrel eating a nut. He stopped eating and smiled at Bruno. You look like you need help, said the squirrel. Bruno sighed. I have been trying to fit into this cave, but it's hopeless. I've been digging and digging, but I haven't improved the opening at all. I'm Jack, and I can help, said the squirrel. But you are too small, said Bruno. Jack told Bruno to sit down and rest. Bruno sat and yawned as Jack scampered away. A few minutes later, he came back. What you need is a book, said Jack. Reading can help you become educated. Books are filled with knowledge. He handed Bruno a thick red book. Bruno moved to a bright, sunny spot. He put on his glasses and tried to concentrate on the story. He paid careful attention to the plot. The story was about a lion and a mouse. The lion thought the mouse was too small to help him. One day, the lion got caught in a net. The mouse chewed the net's ropes and helped the lion escape. Well, the lion in this story learned an important lesson, said Bruno. I think I did too. The story inspired Bruno. The mouse had sharp teeth, and so did Jack. Jack could help. The new friends made a fine team. Jack chewed through the thick roots, and Bruno dug out the dirt. They worked together all afternoon. Finally, Bruno could fit through the opening. Are you satisfied and happy with your cozy new home? Asked Jack. I sure am, said Bruno. And I learned something too. Good friends come in small packages.
Okay, now we've made it through our second story, and we're going to go through some of our comprehension skills and strategies, as well as our vocabulary strategy and Those are going to come up on the next pages, and we're going to also talk about the genre that we're working with. So we're going to be talking about the genre or the type of writing called fantasy.
Visualize. Look for colorful words as you read Bruno's New Home. Use these words to visualize or form pictures in your mind.
So when you are visualizing something, you're imagining it. You can be closing your eyes, you can be thinking about what it is, you can use the words that the author is writing to help you create that picture in your mind and to imagine what it looks like.
Find text evidence. Why does Bruno need to find a new home? Use the details in the first paragraph on page 23.
Now, when we're talking about text evidence, we're going to take that apart. We're going to break that down so we can understand what text evidence is. Text is going to be the thing that you're reading. So that can also include the pictures. When we're talking about text evidence, we're talking about the actual book or the story. And evidence is clues. So when we're looking for clues in the book to help us answer a question. So we're not trying to come up with the answer on our own. We're going back to the reading and we're going to use what the author gave us to find the answer that we're looking for.
Bruno shivered. A frosty wind blew through the forest. Bright red and orange leaves danced around the trees. His paws felt like blocks of ice. It was almost winter. Bruno needed a warm, safe place to hibernate, and he needed it now. Bruno shivered. A frosty wind blew through the forest. His paws felt like blocks of ice. These details help me visualize how cold Bruno feels. He needs to find a new home so he can hibernate. Your turn. How does Bruno make the cave's entrance bigger? Reread the story. Visualize what happens. Then answer the question.
So when we're thinking about what happened in the story, when we want to think about how Bruno made the cave bigger, we know that he met Jack. And Jack was a squirrel, and Jack let him read the story of the lion and the mouse, where Bruno figured out that even if your friend is small, they can still help you out. So what he had was Jack chew through the roots while Bruno dug up the dirt.
Character. A character's actions and feelings make the events in a story happen. Traits are the special ways the character behaves. Find text evidence. Bruno is the main character in the story. I will reread page 23 to find out what he wants and how he feels. Graphic organizer. Character Bruno. Wants or needs. Bruno needs a new home for the winter. Feelings. Bruno is cold, tired, and grumpy. Fantasy. The story Bruno's New Home is a fantasy. A fantasy has characters, settings, or events that do not exist in real life. Has illustrations that help tell the story. Teaches a lesson.
So when we're talking about fantasy stories have things in them that can't happen in real life. So when you see Bruno in the story and you see him wearing a scarf around his neck, well, we know bears don't actually wear scarves in the winter. They have their own fur coat for that. We also know that these characters don't talk because animals aren't able to talk. So that's how you know another sign of what makes this a fantasy story. It has parts in it that can't happen in real life. So a bear is not going to sit and have a conversation with a squirrel in real life because neither one of those animals can talk.
Find text evidence. I can tell that Bruno's new home is a fantasy. The characters are animals that talk and read. The story teaches a lesson. Illustrations show the story could not happen in real life. Illustrations. Illustrations give more information. They show the characters doing things that are not real. Your turn. Describe 2 examples from Bruno's new home that help you know it is a fantasy. Tell your partner.
So we already talked about some examples. One of them is that we see that Bruno is wearing a neck scarf. And another one is that we can see that he's having a conversation with Squirrel. A third example that we can add is that Bruno is reading a book, and we know that bears can't read.
Synonyms. Synonyms are words that have the same meaning. In Bruno's new home, you may read a word you don't know. Use its synonym to figure out what it means.
So this is our vocabulary strategy. So this is what we're going to use when we're trying to figure out what the vocabulary we're reading is telling us.
Find text evidence. On page 23, I'm not sure what grumbled means. I see the word growled in the same sentence. I know that growled means to make a deep rumbling sound. I think grumbled and growled are synonyms. They have almost the same meanings. Now I know what grumbled means. He grumbled and growled to himself.
Okay, so we've reached the end of the lesson in our small book. Now we're going to go back and we're going to review our vocabulary words and their meanings, as well as our notes for this week. So this video is going to have everything you need for the entire week to do your language arts. So make sure you come back and rewatch it when you need to complete an assignment. And the notes are going to be out here in our 2nd and 3rd grade documents for distance learning. We're going to go to week 2 with the date for this week. When you open that up, you'll see the notes right there. If I open that, I'm going to go back to it over here where it's nice and big. Okay, so our vocabulary words for this week. The first word is the word ached. Now, the way your vocabulary notes are set up is the first line gives you the meaning of the word. The second line uses the word in a sentence, and the third line uses it in a question. So ached means to hurt or to feel sore. So when your head aches, that means your head feels sore. We know that Bruno's paws ached because he had been trying so hard to pull up the tree roots that they hurt and they felt sore because he was working on it for so long. An example sentence is, my knee ached from running. And an example question is, after exercising, where have you ached? The second vocabulary word is the word concentrate. So when you concentrate, you're thinking very carefully about what you're doing. You're focusing on that thing. An example sentence is, I can't concentrate on my book because maybe there's too much noise around me, or maybe someone is running around close by and it's a distraction. An example question is, name a time when you needed to concentrate. So think about a time where you needed to really focus and really think hard about what you were doing. Your third word is the word educated. Now, when you're educated, that means you have knowledge. That means you've been learning things. So I go to school to become educated. How might you try to become educated in something? Now, we know from our first story about the wolf, he went to school to become educated and to learn how to read. Your fourth word is the word effort. So when you're putting effort into something, you're putting in a lot of hard work. You're trying really hard. You're working really hard on something. After much effort, he learned to read. So that goes back to our story of the wolf. That means he had to practice a lot, put in a lot of hard work, going to school and reading at home on his own. And all of that effort paid off because then he knew how to read. When is a time you put a lot of effort into doing something? Maybe you were building something like a sandcastle, or maybe you were putting in a lot of effort to clean your room or to help your mom or dad in the kitchen. Your next word is the word satisfied. To feel satisfied is to feel pleased or happy. When you're happy about something, you're satisfied with it. So maybe you just finished writing a story and you feel really good about it. When you feel really good about it, you feel satisfied. So we can say he was satisfied with his drawing, right? He was happy with the way that it turned out. Or you can ask, when might a sports team feel satisfied? Well, they would probably feel satisfied after they won a game, or maybe after they learned how to do something new. If something is improved, it's made better than it was before. So when you improve something, you're making it better than it was when you first got it. This cleaning product is new and improved, so it's better than the one that you had before. And we know from the story that the wolf's reading improved or got better as he practiced more and more. What might you do to improve at something? So if you're trying to improve at a sport, you can practice it more often. When you inspire another person, you cause them to take action. So when you're inspiring someone to do something, you are making them excited and you're motivating them to want to do that thing. So the teacher will inspire the class to help, right? She's going to make them want to help. She's going to maybe give them a reward for helping or give them extra points or a treat. So they are inspired, they're excited, they want to help. How might a speech inspire you? So think about when people talk about how important it is to recycle, right? You hear about all the things that garbage is doing to the earth and how awful it is, and how when we recycle, we're able to make new things out of old things. So we're protecting the earth. And after listening to that speech, you were inspired. So you begin recycling all the time. The next section of our notes is going to be about your spelling words. So each week you're going to have 20 spelling words. The first 15 are going to be your new words. The next 3 are going to be review words from the week before. And the last 2 words are going to be challenge words. You're going to write your words 3 times each in a notebook. For your spelling homework, you're going to skip lines and leave a 2-finger space between your words. And you're going to make sure that you're using your very best handwriting, because messy work will have to be redone. So your words this week are going to focus on the short vowel A and the short vowel I. So your words are clap, camp, hand, stamp, snack, rack, grabs, glad, bill, miss, click, pink, sick, grin, lift, cat, bit, man, anthill, and cramp. So all of these have the short A or the short I sound. Now, when you go to do your 3 times each, I'm giving you an example down here of what it should look like. You need to have your name and date in the top right-hand corner. It should say spelling words. So for this first week, it's going to say spelling words 1.1. So that's unit 1, week 1. Over here, you can see that I skipped lines in between. So I left a blank line in between my words. I wrote my letters neatly. I left a 2-finger space here in between so my words are not squished together. And I tried to use my best handwriting. So you can see that these first 2, I did really well, right? I followed all of the rules. But the next one, you can see that my letters are squished together. They're hard to read. My handwriting is not very good. I didn't leave my spaces the way I was supposed to, and I didn't do my work carefully. So this is not okay. Your spelling words, when you do them, should be set up like it is here on top. Now, the last part of our notes for this week are going to be our grammar notes. So you're going to be working on a few pages in your grammar and the rest of the pages in your practice book. So for grammar this week, we're going to talk about types of sentences. Now, a sentence is a group of words that shows a whole thought or a complete thought. All sentences will begin with a capital letter, and most sentences end with a period. The period is called your end punctuation. So when I ask you about your punctuation, I'm asking you about what goes at the very end of what you wrote. So we're going to talk about just two kinds of sentences today. One is called a statement and one is called a question. A statement or a declarative sentence tells something. When you declare something, you're telling something. And those types of sentences end with a period. It begins with a capital letter and ends with a period. If I tell you, my name is Miss Zaina, the M in my needs to be capitalized and it needs to end with a period. And I am telling you something. That makes it a declarative sentence. The second kind of sentence we're going to talk about is a question, which is also called an interrogative sentence. An interrogative sentence asks something and it ends with a question mark. So like all sentences, we begin with a capital letter. I can say, what is your name? It's going to end with a question mark. Now, we're also going to talk about sentence fragments. A sentence fragment is a group of words, but it doesn't show a complete thought. So you're not sure what's going on in the sentence because it doesn't tell you everything. So a couple examples of sentence fragments are below, and I can say, went to the park. Well, when you read that, you don't know who went to the park. You don't know why they went to the park. It doesn't give you enough information. So when you read something like that, where you feel like stuff is missing, that's a sentence fragment. Or I can say the boy ate the boy ate the what? I don't know. I don't have enough information there. So that's how I know it's a sentence fragment. It does not show a complete thought. So as you're working through your work for this week, I'm going to upload the entire packet for your practice book in both your grammar pages. And I'm going to assign it for Monday, but I'm going to make the due date on Friday. So you're going to have all week to work on it. Now, what you're going to do is each day that you have an assignment, you're going to sign in to your Google Classroom. You're going to open that document from Monday, and you're going to do the work for the pages that you're assigned for that day. And then you're just going to leave it. You don't have to press submit yet because it's automatically going to save all the changes you made. You're only going to press submit when you get to Friday. So each time you're doing work, it's going to save the work for you. And then when you get to Friday and you press submit, all of the pages should already be done. So after you finish the last part of your work on Friday in that packet, then you're going to press the submit button. But you're always going to go back to that same assignment. All right. Now, remember, when you go into Wonders, you're going to go to Resources, and you're going to find your books. If you have questions or you want to access the notes, you're going to go into our shared folder. You're going to go to the week that we're in, and this is going to change each week. So next week, it'll say week 3, and after that, it'll say week 4, and it'll have the dates in there for you, in case you need to access any of our notes that are going to be in here. If you need your workbooks will be up here. And directions on how to scan and upload once you finish your 3 times each in your notebook are also listed right here. That's everything I've got for you, 3rd grade. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye-bye.